Good evening and welcome to the RSU 14 Wyndham Raymond School District Board of Directors meeting. Today is May 16th, 2018. Time is 6:30 and we are in the Raymond Broadcast Modular. May I have a roll call, Mr. Superintendent?
You sure can. Kate Brooks.
Here.
Eric Colby. Here. Shandy Cummins.
Here.
Don Dillon. Diana Forsland.
Here.
Marge Scavone.
Here.
Pete Hensler. Ann McKinney. Scott McLean.
Thank you. If you'll stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, we don't have any adjustments to the agenda this evening, so our first order of business is public input. There's no public, so we will continue on. Our first item is an executive session for a readmission hearing. If I could have a motion to go into executive session.
I move to approve going into executive session to consider the possible readmission of a student pursuant to 1 MRSA 4056B.
Second.
All those in favor? It is unanimous. We are in executive session. Thank you. Okay, may I have a motion to exit out of executive session?
I move to exit out of executive session.
Second.
All those in favor? It is unanimous. Okay, and may I have a motion for our readmission hearing?
I move to approve the student under consideration be or not be readmitted to school, and that the superintendent provide the parents with a written summary of the board's findings.
So actually you need to, we are saying be.
We haven't voted yet.
I
I'm sorry.
second that he be readmitted.
Okay. All those in favor of readmission? And it is unanimous. Thank you.
Okay.
We need a 5-minute
Hey,
break.
Bill, we just need like a 5-minute break to wrap that up,
Okay,
okay?
so you're gonna go back and execute?
No,
No,
it's
we-
just the next group isn't here. I have to check and see if they're here.
Okay.
We just need an intermission.
Yeah, we just need an intermission. Welcome back. We're going to continue our board meeting this evening, and the next item on the agenda is the Wyndham Primary School update. So this evening we have Dr. Kyle Rhodes, the principal, and Diana Jordan, the assistant principal, who are going to be presenting an update. Welcome.
We got some more people coming, I think.
Great.
So I'll wait a moment.
Well, we had an executive session, so we had to kick them out.
How are you?
Okay. Well, thanks again for the opportunity to share a little bit about Wyndham Primary School. We're going to focus primarily on the leadership team. A couple highlights that I wanted to share before we kind of got into that piece was it's been a great year overall. I want to highlight around community. We have had some great opportunities this year to really engage with our community, and it's been, for example, expansion of our AmeriCorps program, where we have added things like a writing club, a homework club, a Spanish club that our kids can access. Their involvement in our family academy, so once a month we've had some type of learning opportunity for parents, and often it always involves children being able to go to it. It often involves education for them as well. Some of those have been like a cooking night. We've had our guidance counselor do an evening where she shared ways to really support at home with your child. I'm trying to think of some other ones we've had recently. The next one will be actually about childhood trauma and safety and security in our school. So they've been, attendance has been from just a couple of people one night to up to 30 for another. We had kicked it off with origami, which was quite popular. Our art teacher did that. So, really reaching out and trying to make our school accessible, at all times, not just during those school hours. So I wanted to mention that piece, 'cause I think that's something that maybe you may not have been aware of. But with regards to leadership team, Diana's been doing a great job, working hard. She's going to give some details, but I just wanted to highlight a couple of things that I've noticed that have been ways that her role has really improved our school. One has been really around being more proactive and quicker in our responses to issues such as the bus. We've got a lot of buses that roll through the Wyndham Primary School, and so it's as much as I know our kids are great and they're all wonderful, we all make mistakes, even our youngest learners. So there's times when they need that follow through, and Dan's been able to really do that in a really positive way, and I know the drivers are appreciating it too. So. She's also overseeing the student support team, which is made up of our guidance counselor, our social worker, behavior specialist, and our behavioral educational technician. And it's been great to have her be part of that group and helping them move forward, because behavior continues to be of an area of concern, I think, in all of our schools. I think back, this is my 10th year at primary school, and our population's changed a little bit. Always got great kids. However, we're finding that some of the challenges we're facing behaviorally are fairly new to us. So it's great to have both Diana's leadership with that team as well as her expertise from where she came from. So IEPs goes kind of right along with it. We're seeing more of our students. I'm sure Lisa has shared that over the air. Just unique challenges we're facing with some of our special needs students, and Diana's been a big help with being a leader around supporting that work with IEPs. And then she's jumped in on district committees as well. Even in her first year here, she's been part of the math work that you've been kept abreast of by Christine. I'd also been a part of many of the S&E superintendent evaluation initiatives. So that's great in her first year. Most importantly, though, what she has spent her time doing is building relationships and getting to know the school and school district. And she's done it in actionable ways, and those are some of the things I've just shared about, for example, with her getting involved in district committees. But it's also that on-the-ground work of being visible in the morning, being in the hallways throughout the day. When someone's got that unique issue going on, giving them the time and energy to listen it through and talk it through and follow through with whatever needs to be met. So that, to me, that's really been the area that's been of the most impact, has been the ability to respond to staff and student questions, big, small, whatever they are. She's been able to really help with that role and quickly become a part of our office. I really feel like the primary school's office has become a much more welcoming place over the years. And you think about it, we've actually become a much more secure place at the same time. And it's kind of maybe seem contradictory. However, I really feel like our families, our community feel much more welcome, even though they have to go through a couple of locked doors to get to see us, and some glass as well. So. And she's been a great help with also supporting staff in regards to supervision evaluations. It's a lot of work. It takes a real team. There's 4 of us that do the evaluations at the school with over 100+ staff. And so her work with that has been great. She's been asking some great questions about how to do that. She really wants to be consistent with that along with the rest of us. Some of the work as a staff that we've been doing, it's been the second full year of implementing the writing units of study, often called the Lucy Calkins program. And that curriculum is really rigorous, and it expects a lot of our students. And if you think back to when maybe we were in school, we may have learned how to write a story. Nowadays, our students, to be successful when they go out in the real world, have to write in a real vast variety of ways. They have to be able to be persuasive with their writing. They have to be able to be succinct. They have to be able to say things in a way that they're going to be able to get across their thoughts and opinions in a way that is impactful. So the world's changed, and because of things like social media and all the technology, it's a lot quicker too. So that all affects how kids write and that they have to be better writers than maybe they were when we were in school. So we've done a lot of work around goal setting with writing, and one of the last tasks that we've just been working on has been having all of our teacher leaders spend a day in every single classroom at the primary school and just focusing on writing and what they're noticing. Really, it's gathering data, and through that, making some action steps for all of our staff to take. Some real, what I would call non-negotiables or guidelines that you need to follow so that we can not only do a good job with instructing our students, but making sure there's consistency from classroom to classroom with that writing instruction. And so that will continue to be a goal for next year, to work on some specific pieces of that writing curriculum that really are something that takes many years for teachers. It's new for any teacher. So want to give them the time and support and give them the feedback along the way, and Diane's been helpful with that as well. So that's one piece, and the other is really that piece around the social and emotional child. Really looking at the whole child. We want to certainly make sure our students leave primary school academically ready to be successful at Manchester. At the same time, we want them to be socially, emotionally ready to learn as well. And it's such a key piece. I believe it becomes even more of a key piece in today's society. So another goal will be around that, and Dana will be really instrumental to that, because our student support team is going to be important to help. They've got a wealth of knowledge and experience, and they're going to be some of the folks that would be doing some of the actual professional learning for our staff in the upcoming year. So I'm going to turn it over to Diane in a moment. I know what's going to happen next year is that we're going to be able to really work on what we've built this year with the relationship she's built and her knowledge of what the school is, and really leverage us, move us forward. And I know she's going to share a little bit more about some of those things that she's looking forward to doing in the upcoming year. So once again, thank you so much, and we hope there's a little bit of time for questions if you have some. Okay?
Okay.
Hello, everyone. It's the first time I've been here, so bear with me. First of all, I want to start by saying thank you to Kyle, because that was a raving review. I do want to say that one of the things that sticks out in my mind that I've kind of focused on all year is creating relationships. Remember the first day this summer that I worked with Kyle, that was the one thing he said: this is a big school, there's a lot of moving pieces, a lot of people that it involves. And he said the most important thing is I want you to create relationships. And so I really made that kind of my overall goal all year. And by doing that, I have some things that I've done to create relationships with staff, students, parents, and the community that I've kind of really focused in on. With the staff, I'm a member, of course, of the student support team. I'm also a liaison between the student support and the special ed department, just so there's somebody that's going to both of those meetings each week and kind of being able to ask the questions and be there to speak of things that are talked about with both groups. I'm also a member of the RTI team. I don't go to every RTI meeting, but I try to go to ones in particular that deal with behavior issues or behavior concerns. And I feel that's also another way that I've gotten to know a lot of the parents, because I'm there and I'm hearing about their concerns for their children moving forward as well. I'm also trying to help support the staff with attendance issues. So that's a big, it's a lot of people, a lot of moving parts. We have an attendance team that meets once a month, and then kind of each of us are given different students that we might have a connection with, or family that we might have connections with, to kind of go back and see if we can help support their needs. Observation, evaluation, of course, supervision and evaluation. I've been working with staff on that. Help with issues with students. A lot of staff kind of just, I think when you become an administrator, one of the favorite things is, do you have a second? Of course, you have to make that time for all your staff, students, parents. And I feel like that's becoming something that people are doing a little bit more often. So I feel like I am starting to create those relationships with the staff members, that they're feeling comfortable doing that. And I'm helping them, support their students and what they need. Behavior needs, of course, trying to help support those kids, creating plans for some kids with a student support team or with a teacher that's really struggling with a particular thing that's going on. Being kind of available when someone needs me, and checking in with staff, and trying to be visible and trying to be someone that they know is around if they need something. I've also been a part of attending the coaches meeting and kind of learning how that committee works. and learning a lot about the curriculum work that they've been doing in the past and where we're headed in the future. I've worked on the scheduling for next year. It's it's not an easy task. It's going to become more and more my role, but it's been great because I have staff that were doing my job before, like pieces of it. I think that I am fortunate in the fact that they're still there. So I'm not afraid of going up and asking them, okay, so how did you do this last year? What worked, what didn't, those kind of things. I also I'm helping with the class lists, and the crisis plan as well kind of helped tweak that a little bit this summer and then help support that this year. And so that's kind of the ways I've helped staff. With students, getting to know the students and the families is so important, making connections with kids. I don't know all of the kids' names still. It's a big school, but I'm getting so I know their faces, and one of the examples of that would be, and they're starting to know me. I was at a basketball tournament in Saco the other day, and a little girl goes, oh, "Hi, Mrs. Jordan." I was like, "Oh my gosh, they know who I am. That's great." And then one of the mothers goes, "Who's that?" It's kind of funny. So anyway, and she's like, "She's our assistant principal." So they're starting to recognize me. They know who I am, and they know why I'm there. I'm there to help Dr. Rhodes, of course. That's my job. They always say that. And visiting classrooms, I love to get out in the classroom. I'm a teacher first, so being able to help support staff with ideas or suggestions to help them be more successful has been great, but also being able to see what the kids are doing and being able to listen to their excitement about their learning is great. I also have stepped in and helped with lunch and recess when needed, when we might be down a person because we have a bunch of people out sick, or just needing an extra set of hands. I like to go out and be visible and have the kids see me there. Positive rewards for students. I've had a couple lunches with kids that have earned rewards. Also bus issues. I've dealt with a lot of those, but also behavior issues, and I really have that idea that, let's learn from the mistake. Let's talk about it, let's work through it, let's figure out what we could do next time is kind of how I've dealt with that. Let's see, parents, like I said, I've done IEPs and RTI meetings, and I also really like the fact that sometimes they just show up in the office and they need to be heard and need to know that their needs are being addressed. And I think that's one thing that I've been glad, because I'm sure Kyle, there's no way that Dr. Rhodes was able to do that all the time last year. So it's kind of nice to have two people in there that can kind of take those concerns. A lot of times I say, well, I don't have the answer yet, but I can look into it for you. And I'm not, and then I'll go and search out the information they're looking for. But just having two people in there, I think, has been really good for the community. In the community, I actually went over April break and I met with the Rotary Club, and I got to they were planning their derby, their fishing derby, the day I went. But I got to introduce myself to some of the members. That was another, Dr. Rhodes had suggested kind of getting out of the community. That community is so important to the RSU 14 district. So I was really glad I did that. I met a lot of really neat people. And they also come into the school and they give back to the school all the time. So having that connection and knowing some of those faces was kind of neat. I also have met with some business leaders, different people that have helped support me in my mentoring program at the state level. And I've gone and met with them individually and talked to them about being a leader and what that means and what they do to help support the schools, and how, if we ever need anything, please let us know, kind of things. I've gone to various school community events, and I'm also on the district administration team and the math committee, like Kyle had said. And then because of all this, I've been fortunate enough to be a part of a mentoring program for leadership in the state. So being able to go and meet with other administration and learn kind of some ways to deal with some hot items that are coming up in education has been really great for me, and that's something that the district has supported me with, which has been fabulous. My hopes are to continue to build those relationships and to build understanding of the community and what's important and what we need to focus on. I want to help the school goal of the social emotional education, trying to improve that and come up with some neat new programs possibly, or ideas for next year to help our students. Also to help support the district goal of math teaching, kind of looking at the practice that we're using for teaching and the tools that we're using and try to improve those. And of course the writing program, like Kyle already talked about. And another area that I think that is going to be really important to me next year is, again, going back, I've really tried to educate myself on the evaluation and supervision and evaluation of staff, and being able to just become stronger and stronger at that and be helpful to staff, because I think my role is to assist staff and students. That's what I'm there for, and so I just want to make their jobs that much easier. So any ideas that I can come up with to support them is kind of what I'm looking for. So, all right, that's about it.
Thanks.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Yes, thanks for coming.
Yes, I know we were going to open it up to questions if you
Yeah.
guys had any, so.
I'll start
Yeah.
it off, sure. One of the things that Mrs. Peavy had brought, when she came a couple of weeks ago, when she's dealing with that same age group, was talking about how she was targeting some, looking for kids that may have struggling with executive functioning skills, and was targeting that. And after reading about that, learning about that, it seems like that age is very important. What are you folks doing to identify those that may not be on an IEP, but struggling with those?
Well, one of the things that we have is the RTI process. We also are very fortunate to have the student support team. So a lot of those students are brought to either our guidance counselor or social worker, me, and say, you know, we're really struggling with this particular student, and we have a weekly meeting with the student support team, and we kind of talk about, we brainstorm ideas to help support those students. How can we help them? Maybe it's meeting with the teacher, maybe it's having an RTI plan put into place. We also have a behavior specialist that also comes to those meetings and knows a lot of those students, and just getting to know those kids and trying to figure out a plan. We do have a lot of students that have teachers that have plans for those students individually that might not come to that RTI setting kind of thing, but they're trying things within their classroom to help support them and try and figure out what works best. So I think we're trying to help those kids. Moving forward, what we really want to do is do a little bit more of social and emotional work within the classroom, really looking at, you know, when you're angry, what are some options, instead of, you know, some of those kids need that extra practice with those things, and that's kind of where we're headed next year as a community, trying to come up with how are we going to meet those needs within the classroom rather than having those kids, you know, start through, you know, maybe an RTI process. Maybe there's things that they just need to be educated a little bit more and practice those things and talk about those things and how you're feeling. It's okay to feel that way, and what can you do when you get that feeling and stuff like that. So that's where we are as a school, and I think we have a lot of great staff members that have great ideas, and then just kind of putting it together and making it a little bit more formal is what we're headed towards.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming tonight. I have to say I get all of your emails, and I've always been very impressed this year with what you had mentioned, the community outreach and those events. And I know sometimes it's hard to get community to come in, but I applaud you for continuing on a monthly basis. I think that's a really fabulous thing. I want to follow up on the social emotional and the student support, because Kyle, you had mentioned earlier perhaps the profile of some children has changed. I wonder if you could address what you're seeing that's different than years past.
I believe we're having more of our families be in a crisis situation to begin with, which then lends to the child being in crisis as well. More homeless.
Really?
Yes. I also believe we're seeing more of our students coming from Portland. You know, we've always had students that may have come from Gray, Naples, you know, so those areas, but more seem to be finding it harder to live in Portland, and for some reason there's either a relative living in Wyndham or housing that they can afford. Mm-hmm. So that's created a little different dynamic. I believe some of our families may qualify for free and reduced, however, haven't filled out the paperwork to do so, which I want to work on that for next year. So that's one of my goals. Some staff and I have been talking, student support staff, and I've been talking about how can we do that.
That's a tricky one.
Yeah, it is a
Yeah.
tricky one, but we're gonna try to solve it, because if they qualify, we wanna help them get to it.
Right, right.
So, that's some of the ways I see it changing. Much more explosive behavior too. So I tends to make them believe that they're coming from a situation where they're in crisis to begin with when they show up at our door.
When you say that you're going to address the social-emotional within the classroom, what kind of training does your staff have to begin with on that? Or do you plan on having?
Yeah, well, some of the training we've done has been, a few years ago, we did actually a whole day training from a lady who, the name's escaping right now, but it was really an approach where we create 5 rules, 5 acknowledgments, kind of positives, and 5 consequences that carry over from classroom to classroom, so that there's some continuity. And so teachers were trained in how to do that, and we've had some follow-ups for new staff on how to implement that in the classroom, and then our student support team has been that. And the other piece that we need to do more of, however, but does happen, is that our student support works with an individual teacher or a group of teachers when they're struggling with either a student or set of students. And so that's more in the moment, what's the situation, and them helping them. Those people have some expertise in that area, teaching them how to use some, kind of create new tools for their toolbox to use in the classroom.
Right.
What we want to do is do that more systemically next year. Instead of it just doing it individually with a teacher or a small group of teachers, do some of those types of trainings. One specifically that we want to work with is, and you might be able to talk a little bit more about it, however, there's one of our speech and language therapists is a trainer, and it's a social skills instruction curriculum. And so we want to have opportunities for teachers to learn about how to do that, because that's meant to be used in the class. So that's kind of gives you a sense of what we're trying to accomplish.
I think it's very laudable. There's only so many hours in a day for staff to be able to, but if a child is acting out, that impacts the teacher and the whole classroom, so I applaud you for pursuing that. And I want to thank you for all your work this year, developing relationships with the community and the staff, and appreciate your work as well.
One other thing, Kate, I'll add to that, and I see Mark's got a question too, but it falls in that same realm.
Yep.
We're going to partner with the high school next year and have a Big Brothers Big Sisters program.
Love it.
Oh, wow.
So we've already started putting that in place. We've had several planning meetings. We've got somebody connected with the high school who's working with finding suitable bigs, and then we'll have some potential littles for the fall already. We won't start the actual program till October, but all the key pieces will be in place when we come back in the fall to get it up and running, so that it will be going next year. So I'm really excited about that, because that's going to help address some of that need right there.
Right.
Some of these children really are seeking some type of unbiased person in their life that can just show that TLC for them. So.
Is there a grandparent program?
We have foster grandparent.
You
We
do have
continue to
that?
expand that as well. Yeah, I believe we're up to 7 or 8 foster grandparents as well.
So you target the children and then match them up?
Yep,
That's how it works?
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Okay, I hope. A while back, we enabled students who were in Wyndham to go up to RES, and I know you recently had your kindergarten
Right.
evaluation day. I was wondering if information was put out to the parents, giving them that option, that if they were willing, and there was room, if there was room up there, if they would be willing to send them up there, because what number are we up to now, Sandy?
I don't have that information, but actually, from my office, Terry's got a draft letter to go out, and I believe 1 grade level next year at the middle school is already filled.
Right.
So we're
That's
just
that
trying
same
to
grade that keeps
draft
moving up.
that letter now to go out. So,
Okay.
yeah.
I believe there's some communication earlier, but it's always come from Sandy's office in regards to that opportunity.
Any other questions?
Yes.
No? I just wanted to ask you to review for us again now what your structure looks like, your administrative structure, adding Diana.
Right, so we've got, Diana and I are administrators as well as the part-time administrators that have multiple roles. That would be Julie Young, who serves as the standards-based teacher part-time, and then administrator, instructional leader, the second part of her time. And then Rebecca Miller is a grades 2 and 3 multi-age teacher part-time, and then she's an instructional leader 2 days a week. And then we also have our teacher leaders that are stipended positions, and we have, other folks that, for example, we have a behavior specialist that oversees our new monitors in regards to how they operate as well. And our special ed site coordinator, who's Marissa Washburn, so she is the person overseeing the special ed department for the primary school.
Any other questions?
I've got two more things.
Yeah.
Just two more things. I wanted to remind you that the program that Diana shared about, the mentor program, which is a 2-year program, was supported by 2 of our community partners, Gorham Savings and Norway Savings.
Oh, wow.
It's a couple $1,000s for the program. I believe that Diana's found it beneficial. And they've also, a person from each organization has been a mentor for her as well through the business side of it. So that's something I want you to be aware of. The other is something that's coming to the end tomorrow. It's our assembly, is our community day, which is it's been an ongoing process, I guess, to have some of our community partners celebrate it, and we have been doing some fundraising. A couple weeks ago, we did a race for the community, and we raised money that way for 4 different organizations that we've had ongoing partnerships with. And we did it by grade level. Kindergarten is supporting Wyndham Public Library. Grade 1 is supporting just the elderly, and specifically the Ledgewood Manor. Grade 2 is doing the Maine State Society for Protection of Animals, or often known as the Horse Farm. And then 3rd grade is partnering with Wyndham Historical Society. So just kind of quickly, what the concept is this is we're celebrating not only the fact that we've raised money for these organizations, however, they're a partner with us, and so we give to them, and they get from us as well. For example, all of our 3rd graders go on a field trip around Wyndham to learn about the history of Wyndham. It's facilitated by the Wyndham Historical Society. All of our kindergartners get the opportunity to interact with the public library. We do these things, and we also get education. Our kids are getting education from having these community partnerships. So I'm really proud. This is our first year of doing this, and we've raised close to $7,000 for those 4 organizations.
That's fantastic.
And so we've already, and it really kind of shows the team effort at the primary school. Our leadership team's been involved, our parent advisory group's been involved, so there's some really involved parents that have helped get this going this year. Our volunteer coordinator, Michelle Jordan, our teacher leaders have been at the planning meetings to go back to their grade levels and talk about what we're going to do. Our art department's been involved. So tomorrow we have an assembly for an hour from 9:30 to 10:30, thanks to the high school, because it's hard to get us all together, but we can do that at the Wyndham High School auditorium. And we'll just be celebrating for about an hour, all 4, and recognizing all 4 of those organizations. Unfortunately, it's not open to the public. We could probably make room for you, because when we all get in that auditorium, we're pretty packed. But I'm really excited about how well it's gone, and like I was getting ready to say, we've already been talking to some of the staff about how we can make it better for next year, just because it's been such a great thing, kids talking about it and getting psyched about running around the track, and so.
Cool.
Thanks.
Well, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Alrighty. Moving along to policies. Ms. Briggs, would you like to give us a little?
I'd be delighted. We're going to be talking about tobacco use and possession, file code ADC. The last time we revised this was 2015. And at that time, that was when e-cigarettes were becoming popular. Since that time, vaping has become even more popular and more of a concern at the high school. And so we met with Mr. Howell, the principal at the high school, and both middle school principals, which amazingly enough, there are occasions in the middle school where this is an issue, to just review the policy and maybe beef it up a little bit, which is what we've done. I will tell you that we currently on the books have a policy and a regulation, and after reviewing both and kind of doing a side-by-side, we came to the realization that the regulation was a duplicate of a lot of the information in the policies. So what we've done and what is before you is a first reading for just a policy that combines both into one. It's less confusing for both staff and for parents, and it's less redundant. And once we get through the second reading, we will delete the regulation and then just go with this revised policy. Without further ado, I'd be delighted to have Mr. Howell speak about what the concerns were and how we improve this policy.
Got my computer tonight, as all of you now know. Well, first of all, thank you for taking some time to take a look at this policy. Mrs. Brooks is absolutely correct. When this policy initially was developed, even the tobacco use policy, was close to the time that the large tobacco settlement came, and monies went to states to address smoking and tobacco use, not only in schools, but all public areas. And at that time, tobacco was actually included within our substance use policy and was considered one of the prohibited substances within that. Through what was actually given at the time as some best practice advice, tobacco was taken out of the policy. And at that time also the discipline procedure that was done for tobacco was severely lessened. And at that point, really the push was for tobacco products to move kids more towards cessation programs or other opportunities. And so what might have been a suspension from school in the past then quickly became a detention or some other piece. Back in 2015, with the rise of e-cigarettes and especially the targeting of e-cigarettes towards students, we asked that that actually be added because there was a time that we did have kids who were openly vaping in restrooms at that time, and it was flavored water. Wasn't actually nicotine, and we didn't have anything in policy that would prevent such behavior other than that's not something that you should be doing in school. So at that time we asked that it be done in policy. So this most recent time is that we've actually seen e-cigarettes, whether they be Juuls or other vaping devices, getting smaller and smaller, more inconspicuous, more targeted towards our teens, actually easier for students to get because you can take your Amazon gift cards from Christmas or whatever holiday that you're receiving one of those gift cards, and you can go right on Amazon and order one, have it delivered to your home. Or there are some websites where if you just go in and put in a fictitious birth date, they'll send you one for free. That's an opportunity. And many of them have little USB charging devices, and so anything from a computer port to any of the small USB chargers can now be used to charge your electronic device that you can then deliver, whether it be nicotine or THC, which is the active ingredient in marijuana, or even in some cases flavored oils and waters and things. What's been difficult for us at the high school is that unlike a cigarette, which if you go in with a cigarette, you can definitely tell that someone's been smoking in a spot. When a student has gone and vaped somewhere, it's very, very difficult times to actually tell that that's happened, other than you'll see a giant puff of smoke or a cloud or a haze where a student might have been. And so looking at our policy, looking towards, number one, educating students, but also I think to help out school administration for students to realize that you know what, as we start to work through these things, discipline's going to start to become cumulative, because it's not enough that we can say you shouldn't be vaping, you have a detention, or you have an in-school. We do confiscate those items. We call parents. And often we'll have parents who will come and will get those devices and then we'll return them directly to the student, which makes it very, very difficult and sends a very, very difficult message for us to be able to do. But obviously we don't want them in our school, and I know as a board you don't want these in our school. We don't want them on our buses. I'll also tell you, and I think the public's important to know, this isn't a Wyndham High School issue. This is an issue that's impacting every single high school in the country with the availability of these devices. Additionally, there's some health issues, and no one knows what the direct vaping of harmful chemicals, what actually the long-term impact is going to be to individuals' bodies. But it's become one of those things that has been difficult to deal with, and we are catching students. Staff have been great as far as getting into restrooms. Occasionally we'll have students who will post videos of students doing that on school grounds, which makes it very easy to figure out who is doing what, where, and when. But they're elements of things that we want to do. So in the policy, we tried to be as inclusive as possible of all the different types of tobacco products that are out there. Anything that has an illegal substance in it, such as has a THC base to it, is going under the substance abuse policy. If it's a nicotine product, it is going through this policy. We have partnered with the Wyndham Police Department. We've purchased little test kits that you can actually pour the little oils in, and it will tell you whether or not it's a nicotine-based or a THC-based, which allows, it's a new piece of chemistry that Mr. Rossetti and Seth Fournier have now gotten into, but they're able to test that. So part of what the policy is a lot of communication to parents, and so adding at the beginning of the school year with the required forms, the policy that we have on tobacco and tobacco use as one of those forms that are there. But we've actually mirrored our current substance abuse policy in some of the different steps that take place for first, second, and third violation. So just going to kind of walk you through here. First violation, we're looking at either late night detention or an in-school suspension. Going to a second violation, up to a 3-day suspension from school. Third violation is a meeting with Mr. Prince. Okay, and whether or not after subsequent violations that then garners or requires a meeting with all of you folks, I think that's something that we're going to have to cross as we go along. The other thing that we're going to be heavily communicating to students, and I had a couple of students who got caught today, new policy is this. This is your first time. This is going to become cumulative. So this isn't just, you know what, per year, this is the time that you're in high school. Much like now with your substance abuse policy that we have on the books, is it's cumulative through high school. This particular nicotine tobacco use policy will become cumulative as well. We really need to let individuals know that this isn't anything that we want to have in our school, nor should we have students who are subjected to it. Students should be able to go to the restroom without having to worry about whether or not someone is vaping in there. The fourth piece that's in here is voluntary referral. So if someone is saying, I have an issue, we definitely want to work with those students. We want to work with those families. And so there's a self-referral piece. And then also there's a piece in here which is students who are providing to others, that we want to make sure that that is dealt with differently than those students who are using on their own. So those are some highlights and the differences in the policy.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions about the policy or any of the changes?
I just had that one. Can we get I know the intent in that first paragraph is like a nicotine patch, but that's not the way it reads. It says, this includes lookalike tobacco products or any product that is represented to be tobacco or contains nicotine, with the exception of nicotine replacement therapy products, NRT, used for the purposes of cessation. And that isn't always a nicotine patch, because I think some people have this concept that that's what they sell it when they advertise for the vaping and the
So
e-cigarettes
it wouldn't be difficult to add a line in there which basically just says nicotine replacement products used under the care of a physician
That's fine.
as an exception.
That's fine. I just wanted to take that little bit of gray out of there. Somebody will find it.
Good catch. Good catch. Okay. Any other questions?
Could you say that phrase again, please? If you can remember it, because I can't.
This includes, let's see, with the exception of nicotine replacement products, could be prescribed.
As doctor approved?
Yeah, as prescribed by a physician.
Okay.
The other thing I'm noting in Mrs. Brooks in this is that we are missing one section, which is
Dear, dear, dear.
students who are providing to others. And I'm not sure if it's just missing from the print copy that I have.
All right, we'll look that up.
Yes.
So, ladies and gentlemen, what this means is when we get to the second reading, we will have a copy in your folder highlighting these additions so that you know that we've taken care of the questions expressed this evening. Is that okay?
Yep, that's fine.
Excuse me,
It's just the
on
first.
The last sentence, it says, any person suspected of selling, distributing, or in any way dispensing tobacco, nicotine products to students. Is that what you're talking about?
There's actually was a section that we get put in, it was a bolded section that had
Okay.
students providing, but
Right.
you're absolutely correct, the bottom one,
Would do it.
it really appears in two spots.
Okay.
And again, I think what we were trying to do also, students are aware of our current substance abuse policy and how it's set up, and the language here is actually taken from that. So we'd just like to mirror that.
Yep.
And I think it would also be helpful with parents as administrators have those conversations.
Okay. All right. We're all set then. May I have a motion for the first reading?
I move to approve the first reading of revised policy ADC, tobacco use policy.
Second.
All those in favor? It is unanimous. Next item on the agenda is the renewal of administrator contracts. If someone would please make a motion.
I move to approve the superintendent's recommendation to grant extended contract status for the 2018-2019 year to the following administrators: Elizabeth Peavy, Assistant Principal, Raymond Elementary School; Diana Jordan, Assistant Principal, Wyndham Primary School; Kim McBride, Assistant Principal, Wyndham Middle School.
Anybody have any questions about that? Okay, all those in favor? It is unanimous. And for the administrators, somebody would...
I move to approve the superintendent's recommendation to grant extended contract status for the 2018-2020 to the following administrators: Randolph Crockett, Principal, Jordan Small Middle School and Raymond Elementary School; Kyle Rhodes, Principal, Wyndham Primary School; Danielle Donini, Principal, Manchester Elementary School; Andrew Patton, Principal, Wyndham Middle School; Crystal Vargo Ward, Assistant Principal, Manchester Elementary School; Phil Rossetti, Assistant Principal, Wyndham High School; Rich Meserve, Head of School, Katahdin.
Second.
Any questions? Okay, all those in favor? And it is unanimous. Thank you. Okay. We are going to be going into a workshop following this meeting, but before we adjourn, I just wanted to recognize Genevieve being our student representative this year. She's done a fabulous job. We're very happy to have you and giving up your time. I hope it was a good experience for you as well.
Yeah, thank you.
We wish you good luck in the future and in your school, and You want to tell everybody where you're going?
Yeah, I'm going to Belmont University in Nashville, Tennessee.
Great. Yes,
Thank you.
congratulations.
Thank you.
I said good for you.
Oh, goodness.
And if somebody could make a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I just wanted to remind everybody of some very important upcoming events and dates to put in your calendars. We have lots of exciting things going on. June 3rd is the top 10% dinner at St. Joe's, which does require an RSVP for board members. After that, on June 5th is the Katahdin graduation, which is going to be at Camp Hines. That also requires an RSVP if you can attend. And the Wyndham High School graduation is June 10th at the Cross Insurance Center in Portland at 1:30. And the Adult Ed graduation is June 14th at the Wyndham High School Performing Arts Center. So I want to give you all a heads up so you can get that in your calendars, and hopefully you'll be able to attend. Okay, that was it. That was really the end. Thank you.
Oh, wait.
Good evening and welcome to the RSU 14 Wyndham Raymond School District Board of Directors Workshop. Today is May 16th, 2018. The time is 7:55 and we are at the Raymond Broadcast Modular. So this evening we are holding a workshop session with Marlene Bicknell, Mike Duffy, and Bill Hansen to discuss the policy community use of school facilities and grounds. Ms. Briggs, if you'd like to give us a little overview.
Certainly. Perhaps you recall that we've been mentioning this policy for approximately 2 years. And this evening, we come before you to give you an overview of the work that's been done during that time. As you might recall, we've had a little overview in the past, but the real reason why we are looking this over again was it was last approved in 2011. And since that time, we have learned a lot about the use of our facilities and the wear and tear of our facilities and the cost to maintain our facilities. We're also very cognizant of the importance of having our facilities available for the community. So with both of those in mind, we had numerous discussions on how best to serve, first and foremost, the educational needs of our students with our buildings, and then secondary, how we can accommodate the community with the use of our fabulous facilities. So I'm going to turn it over to Marlene, who is our facility coordinator, who really is the one who manages all the requests, and it's just a million balls in the air, making sure that people are being accommodated. She does a fabulous job, and it's a very complex job, and we're very happy for her work. Additionally, we're going to have Mr. Duffy speak, who is our safety and risk analysis person, who did a review of the fee schedule, our current one, and our proposed one, and he'll talk a little bit about how he came to recommend certain fees. So, Marlene, I'll let you take it away.
Thank you, Kate, for those kind words. It is a pleasure of mine to be a part of this facilities department, and we're asking you, school board, for your support to consider.
Excuse me, just for a second, my apologies.
It was so great.
Start with thank you, Kate.
Thank you, Kate, for those kind words. It is my pleasure to be a part of the facilities department for RSU 14. As the department, we are asking you for your support, the board, to consider approving some upgrades to the current facility use policy, keeping within the realm that we are first and foremost a school facility to meet the needs of RSU 14 students. It is still necessary to adapt the policy to address the ever-growing requests that have been coming in and to close the gaps where challenges are occurring. Keeping up with the times and progression, it was necessary for us to implement a new and improved way of requesting facility use at RSU 14. We now use an online program and have been for a couple of years. It is more like one-stop shopping for our requesters. The online program allows us a quick turnaround for the approval process, accurate information about who is using the facility, tracking of expenses to either the user or the district, that the HVAC is requested, grounds and maintenance are notified when applicable, making sure that events are covered by custodial coverage, and with the increased demand for the use of our facilities, making sure that the areas are being requested aren't already in use by someone else, causing a conflict for use of space. The online request process that I speak of has made it easier for the requester, and the data shows us that our after-school hours has doubled in one school year. It has also allowed us to become more familiar with those areas in our current policy that need addressing, and those of what I have outlined here tonight. The request process, we needed to add the wording to reflect the newer online facility request policy. Where it was all paper version, it is no longer a valid way to make a request. The insurance requirements needed to be updated to cover our issue 14, not only for the amount of liability, but to indicate that insurance is a requirement for all requesters. To identify the users, we needed to redefine and reclassify the categories of the user groups to align with appropriate use based on who the users are, and to make updated changes to the fee table. The kinds of use to support limitations on personal use of our issue 14 facilities. To recover some of our expenses, to adjust the demands on setup, and to recover costs for consumable items. You'll see that listed on the fee schedule, noted as user fees. A staffing coverage. The increased facility use is exceeding what we could get for custodial coverage on nights and weekends. So to put some reasonable limitations on the percentage of facility use, and to allow custodians time for cleaning, and to protect the district from long-term extensive use of buildings and properties and classrooms. To be clearer about prohibited use. And to clearly define the expectations about facility use for equitable use amongst users and the conditions of use. Now, just some quick facts that I have more at length should you request them. Just the comparable data for the school year 15-16, we had 12,014 after-school weekend use hours across the district. In school year 16-17, we had 24,915 after-school weekend use hours. These are all above and beyond the regular classroom scheduled day. The further breakdown, the high school hours are being the most accurate because that program, the facility request program, has been in use longer for the high school. Since 2014, the use has almost doubled from 15-16, now this is just the high school alone, of 8,029 hours to 16-17 school year, coming in at 14,480 hours of school use, after our school use. So in closing, while a policy has had a new facelift to align for changing times and ever-growing demand on the facility use at our issue 14, I don't want folks to think that you won't get the same friendly individual customer service and flexibility that you've always had with us. We continue to provide the best service we can to meet the needs of our students at our issue 14 in the greater Wyndham-Raymond community. It is with pride that I look forward to continuing to assist you with all of your facility needs at our issue 14.
Thank you, Wendy.
Marge has a
Do you have a
question.
question?
Yeah, I have a question. On page 3, under the prohibited activities,
Okay.
if you go down to 6, very bottom, no weddings, family funerals, or memorials will be held. We have done that. Does that mean they will no longer be allowed, no
Correct.
matter who it is?
That-
Or, I found, if you went to the next page, under appeals decision-making authority, if there was an extenuating circumstance.
If there was like a dignitary.
Right, you would still deny it.
Correct.
According to this, and then they could go to the superintendent.
Absolutely.
To get it approved. Am I reading that correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
See, I found my question and my solution. I'm so proud of myself sometimes.
Very good.
Sometimes I surprise myself.
point.
I'll tell you, this is a lot of work.
Yes, it
A
is.
lot of work.
know.
I don't even want, how many meetings and hours?
Quite a few meetings. I also have to say that we also had legal review this, and so this has been scrutinized 29 ways to Sunday. So that's not to say that obviously there are some things we probably missed, and please know that this is a fluid document, and if there's anything glaring, we of course would be open to revision or whatever, but Mr. Duffy.
Can I ask Marlene one quick question?
Sure.
Marlene, since you've gone electronic on the form, has that helped you a lot?
I'm sorry, the question again?
If people want to use a room or
Right.
any place in
Right.
there, you've gone from the paper form to having them do it electronically online.
Correct.
Has that helped you tremendously? I would
Oh, yeah.
think it would.
Oh, we can, the amount of stuff we can do, just when you submit one facility request, by submitting it online, I'm able to notify several staff members, everything from grounds, if you request a room in our building and it's going to be snowing this weekend, grounds are notified to make sure the sidewalks are done and the parking lots are plowed. Custodians are notified so that we can get coverage. HVAC is notified so we can have heating. I mean, it's just, you just submit your request and everything is done. I do look at every single request that comes individually. My eyes see every request that comes in.
That's great.
Thank you for the time. I want to tell you how much I appreciate the board members' input and the time that they put into this, because it has been, Kate, I think, is very, very lenient when she says 2 years. I know my rates that I came up with when my review was 2015, so those are based on 3-year calculations. The thing that we found when we were going over all these things is every part of the school district people were interested in using. Classrooms and kitchens and cafeterias and science rooms and gyms and auditoriums and parking lots and baseball fields and you name it, and to try and get everything into one policy that covered everything. As Kate said, it has to be a fluid document because there are going to be gaps and everything. The main thing that I took out of this was that everybody on the committee felt that the rental of any of our facilities should not be a profit center, and that it was primarily based on school and town activity. When I reviewed the rates from 2015, what I tried to do is go to school districts that had similar type of facilities. So the places like Portland and South Portland and Westbrook, who had major auditoriums, how did they operate and how did they price their things, and found that everything that we had was available, but the school district is still responsible. So if you wanted lighting in the auditorium, you have to pay somebody who knows how to properly operate the lighting because they're responsible for it. If you wanted audiovisual, you just don't come in and plug in your own audiovisual stuff and hope that it works. And so we kind of broke it down to that. We looked at elementary school facilities and compared them to elementary school facilities in the districts of South Portland and Westbrook, SAD 6, Portland, Scarborough, and Gorham. So any elementary school facility that was available for community use, we reviewed the rates. Then we moved up to middle school facilities, then we moved to high school facilities, and broke it down, again, to classrooms, gyms, auditoriums, you name it. We looked to see if technicians, managers, custodial, audiovisual, equipment rental were covered. We also came up with how did they handle fire and security. So if they had an event with 600-800 people, did they expect us to provide security as far as police and rescue and everything else, or were they responsible for it? And then we went into things like parking lots and fields because of car shows and, hate to say circuses and that type of thing, but fundraising type of things. We took the average market rate for rentals and usage, and we estimated the cost to cover the cost of the operation and protect the assets of the district. So it's not the highest, it's not lowest, it's what we felt was comparable. We also did not include places like Merrill Auditorium. We didn't include the Cross Insurance Center. We didn't include Hadlock Field for the rentals because we're not quite up to that level of arena. We did say that the first priority was school use, second community, and the third was other people that we could accommodate. And we did not, we decided that we did not really want to be a catering service to the groups, but wanted to protect the assets of the kitchen and the facilities that we had, so that if for some reason people needed something in the kitchen, that again, some responsible person from the food service would be there so that stuff didn't walk and they were protected for different things. So the fee schedule you have proposed breaks down the auditorium if you want to rent the full one, if you just want to rent the back, if you want to rent the main gyms, if you want to rent a cafeteria. Priority 1 and 2 is outlined in your policy, and I believe, I don't have it with me, but that's school and town.
School and town.
Yep, school and town government. So if there's any school functions that want to use the auditorium or town functions, there's no charge for that, and that whole column, we'll arrange to have that. Priority 3 and 5 are school group benefactors, collective bargaining units, PTO, PTA, boosters, and others. Priority 4 is Wyndham Raymond non-revenue youth organizations, and priority 5 is town and municipal. And then we go into outside revenue. We did add the highlighted part about the kitchen requires food service staff as part of the policy. So it's kind of complicated and convoluted, but we tried to cover everything. Marlene has this right in the top of her head, so you ask her about a gymnasium on a Saturday in February after 4, she knows what column it goes in for whatever. Anything I can answer for you on the rates?
Remarkable work, thank you very much. Yeah.
I got out of that easy, huh?
So far.
Thank you.
One of the things I want to mention is that we had considerable discussion about safety in our schools, which played into this policy. Times have changed, and we really thought long and hard when we crafted this policy what was smart in that regard. And then the other thing that, and maybe Bill, you can speak to this if you wish. One of the challenges that we have is custodial staff, and having enough custodial staff and meeting our own needs to make sure that our classrooms are ready for the next day. And then on top of that, we have other groups that come in, and we have to make sure that our areas are well prepared for the next day. So that is a challenge, and that was a consideration when we discussed this policy as well. Bill, I don't know if there's any other things you'd like to add. Mr. Hanson, Director of our Facilities.
Good evening. First, I'd like to thank the board for all the work that they did with the policy members on the policy committee that worked on this. And Marlene and Mike, I can't thank them enough. You look at how we changed from a paper system that I really couldn't draw data from. So we had a form system that I guess you could probably go through, Marlene, and try to look at forms and figure what's going on. Now we can actually tell you where the buildings are being used, how often they're being used, the metrics we have that really help us to understand the use and the support. So we've gone really from, I'm going to say, the 16th century. Now we're moving into, I'd say we're into the 21st century, at least on the data we can see that. And as an engineer, I like data because then I can decide what needs to be there. But when we look at custodial coverage, really, we are staffed not for the peaks, but we're really staffed to the valleys. So for the most part, other than recently, since we've had some changes in shifts, all weekend coverage is overtime. So we're asking our staff to work extra hours to cover these events. Recently, we have two staff members that work weekends. One works a shift that they work a Saturday and a Sunday in the high school. And we made that change as a result of looking at the data that we were able to pull together, that we really need coverage for that. And then we have a custodian in the middle school that works Saturdays because, again, those buildings get used very heavily during the school year on the weekends. So we have made some changes to our staffing. It creates some part-time holes in our week schedule that we fill with part-time help and other help. So those are the challenges we have because our primary objective is having the schools ready for the next day. That children are coming to the school. That's where they're for to make them safe and ready. So that is a huge challenge. And again, I want to really thank Mike and Marlene because they've really been pushing this ahead and making it happen. And I don't know how Marlene is able to look at all these uses of all of our buildings and pull them all together. It's really quite amazing. Very rarely do I get contacted if there's a challenge or an issue, or can you take care of something like this for me? So it's great. And then the system actually gives me all the reports for what HVAC has to be turned on and turned off, and that's how we drive that. So that's dollars and cents to you, because if we're not running equipment because there's no one there, that's saving money. And if an event gets canceled, I get notification, I can shut stuff off so it doesn't run. So again, we're trying to drive efficiencies in. This is another way to do that. By having the metrics, we really can. So thank you again for your consideration of this changes in policy.
Thank you, Bill.
I was just curious if HVAC is being run from BACnet at your house on the network.
Yes.
Good. That's the only way to do it.
My home, my restaurant, so we're on that.
That's right.
Right here we can do it.
Yes.
Yeah. I know, that's wonderful, isn't it?
Yeah.
Good and bad.
Right.
All set? Okay, then this concludes our workshop.